Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Welcome back to the show. Teresa Rogerson, better known as Tree, is joining us today. She's designer for Ecology by Design, based out of Asheville, North Carolina. You got to take a look at her work. It's beautiful, all her ecological landscape designs and project management services. She's here to help you increase your property's utility, beauty, and bottom line. Welcome back. How are you today?
Good. How are you?
I'm
Thanks.
doing fantastic. I know you mentioned it was a little bit chilly there. You're down in Asheville, North Carolina, correct?
Yeah, Jill, we just had the hurricane and now we have cold weather.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I hope your family's safe and sound, and Happy New Year to you. And for those new time listeners out there, let's get to know you. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what it is you provide.
I provide ecological landscape design, meaning that I'm focusing on native plants, fewer inputs, like things that you have to bring onto the site, kind of a lower key look because the world's, we've got a lot of building going on. So we need our green spaces, we need our open spaces, and to kind of keep a sense of privacy around individual residences as forests and other things get cut to make room for more people like you and me. Also, I just love nature, so that's kind of my aesthetic, is the natural world.
Oh, well, let
I
me get
offer
oh, go ahead.
I offer design, project management, just consultation, kind of everything start to finish, hand holding, landscape therapy.
Wow. Okay, so it's ECOBYDESIGN.net, right?
Correct.
Ecobydesign.net to find you and see some of your work. Before we talk more in depth about the work you do, could you give me a little bit of your background? How you got started in this field, where you grew up, and who inspired you to go down this path in this career?
Well, I grew up in Asheville, North Carolina, and it's a beautiful place and it's known for its beauty and it's got some great old architecture because Asheville couldn't tear it down because it didn't have enough money to raise the buildings and redo. And when I was young, my parents had a house that a very prominent interior designer bought after us, and he just transformed the house. And it kind of inspired me architecturally. I saw what the house I had lived in, which was an amazing house, and I knew that. And then I saw what this designer did to it. So at a very young age, I was steeped in the understanding of transforming of a property. And then that carried on. I planned to go to architecture school, and then I got a scholarship to a school that didn't even have an architecture program. So I studied art and then got into the outdoors and kayaking and
Hmm.
whitewater raft guide and all of this. And I found the Conway School of Landscape Design. It's a 1-year program up in Massachusetts, in Western Massachusetts. And this was back in the day when you had to get a catalog in the mail, and I just loved the pages, and it was kind of uncanny the way this school was presented to me. It was a
Hmm.
coincidence between two different people, and it was like, oh, this is a sign, I've got to check it out. And I did. I went up there and checked it out, and I was like, oh yes, this is the school for me, because landscape design is in that architectural realm. And we studied doing hand drawing, because I'm an artist, I use my hands. And so then after that school, which was the perfect right choice to do, I went straight to California, to Santa Cruz in the Bay Area, and started flying my flag, hanging my shingle, so to
Ah.
speak, in the year-round growing season, and spent 20 years there. And now I've come back to Asheville, to my hometown, and designed and built my own compound. And now I'm here. I'm for you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Well, we're excited that you're here and would love to now kind of go a little more in depth to talk, about the work you're doing, because I know clearly you love what you do and you work so hard. And how, does it work in a sense where you got your start, if you don't mind me asking? Because I read something about a substitute teacher. Is that who guided you, or you
Yeah,
were a substitute teacher,
the little
right?
sign that I should do it. Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
I,
Tell me about that. I read that earlier.
Okay, I was working at a nursery out. 'Cause I'm a little bit rural outside of Asheville, not far,
Hmm.
but I went further out when I was young and worked at a nursery I was propagating plants. So I was cutting plants, putting little rooting hormone and sticking them in. I was like, wow, plants grow. How amazing. And it was just a really neat place to be, a Quaker couple out in the beautiful hills. And so it was kind of a trek to get there. And it was just a very, kind of hobbit experience to go to work every day. Plus, I was around plants and seeing all of this growth. And so just kind of something new for me. And then their son turns out that their son went to the Conway School of Landscape Design. And it was just something like, okay, noted. But then I was also a substitute teacher in town and showed up in a classroom one day. And this good looking, I don't even know who he is now, but he came in and he said, "Hey, how you doing?" I said, "Hey, I'm fine. How are you?" And he just said, "So what are you going to do? Like with your life?" I'm just like,
Yeah.
well, gosh, since you asked, I mean, I'm doing this right now. I love architecture. I love the outdoors. He's like, "You know what? You might want to check out the Conway School of Landscape Design." And I was like,
Ooh.
what? And so that was two different people. So of course, I don't even know how I found the phone number. I couldn't Google it. I mean, I somehow I found out how to contact the school and got their catalog. And then I went up to a visitation and, orientation visitation to see if I wanted to go to the school. And it was a yes from the moment I got there.
Oh, beautiful. Well, thank you for sharing that. It's always good to find out someone's background, who they are and what brought them here. And you mentioned, you want to talk a little about landscape design, right? It being undervalued, as you say, right?
Sure.
Those are one of the things do you want to start there or do you want to kind of break down some of your services first? It's up to you.
Well, let's start with that.
Sure.
With valued, yeah. I mean, I think people love landscape design. They love gardens. They love nature, flowers. People love this, but in the progress of building, what happens is I get called to the scene after people have built a house and they have
Yeah.
worked with contractors for who knows how long, and the project creep, the scope creep, the cost overrun has basically depleted them, and in so many cases has made them pretty jaded and angry or frustrated or scared financially. So that's kind of why I mentioned landscape therapy, because the people who call me are either intrepid or have cash still, or can see the value of landscape design. And in school at the Conway School, Don Walker, who actually just passed away recently, he was a great teacher. And at one point he said, landscape design is about everything. And that really stuck, because if you think about it, in the urban environment or suburban or pretty much anywhere, everything you do is happening on the land somehow. The way you get to your car, you know,
Mm-hmm.
every single thing, the way we get food in our mouths is if you take it back, it's coming from land. And so that really made an impression on me. And so nowadays, when people call me, I'm essentially a landscape architect, and architects charge a lot of money for house designs, and that landscape architects are in the same realm. They're on the level with landscape with architects, but there's an impression that landscape just needs to be mowed, just have some grass and mow it. And there are
Mm-hmm.
just the lost opportunities there is
Yep.
staggering to me,
Yeah. Yep.
because thanks to global warming, and we're not even necessarily good, we're not
Oh
even
my goodness. Yeah.
it's making kind of a joke, but outdoor living is becoming more, I mean, people are seeing more value in that. And it's like, wow, got this whole yard around my house, and what am I doing with it? And so I'm shelling out money every month for someone to come mow it. It's like
Yeah.
there's so much more. So it's undervalued. People aren't seeing what they can do with it, but also so many things are really important about it, like placing a patio where the sun's going to shine, placing the house where the sun's going to
Hmm.
shine. That's where I have some beef with architects, and maybe we'll talk about that later.
Ooh, good one. It's funny. I had my first little landscape design done. I live on Long Island, and I have a normal two-story house, and I live on a fake lake in a little community. And I hired someone to do an architectural design of the yard, and I'm so glad I did because no one I know has used these services, and I kept seeing it, hearing about it, and I'm like, it makes so much sense because now I have a plan. And even though not everything's finished, yeah, the pool's in, the patio's in, all right, the barbecue eventually, the shed eventually, the garden beds, like everything, I know where it's going to go. And it was so mapped out. It is the best investment I've ever made. It really is because if I would have done it the wrong way by just thinking and but it just I would have been miserable. So I commend you on what you do. I think it's an important part of any homeowners, or commercial properties as well. People, and what it does for the eye, seeing it beforehand, and you can make those adjustments. It makes perfect sense. I think everyone should use your services. And by the way, my dad went to school for horticulture on Long Island, so he's big into flowers and trees and plants. And my mom passed, and she was always in the garden with him. And now he's a little too old to do it. My sister helps him, but he still keeps his property in shape. So I always had an eye for things, and I really appreciate what you do. So I want
Well, I
everyone.
appreciate, Jill, that you got a landscape design plan.
Me too. It was the smartest thing I ever did, to be honest with you. And people are like, oh, it's so expensive. I'm like, no, the few $1,000s that it was so worth it because, and you know what? One day when I redo my home, I have a lot of friends that are just redoing the kitchen. And I'm like, but wait, what about the overall? If you redo the kitchen, what about the floor throughout the house? And what about, I'm like, shouldn't you hire someone to get a plan? Oh, we got a plan for the kitchen. I'm like, but what about the rest of the space that may change or may move? I'd rather prepare for the future first.
And let's make mistakes on paper.
Exactly. It's going to be a lot less costlier that way, for sure. Thank you, Teresa. All right. What other aspects of your work do you want to share? And by the way, I'm on the website. I hope everyone does the same as well. By Design, ECOBYDESIGN.net. And I would love on a future podcast to be able to show some of your work and talk about some of your testimonials, which I can do right now. Someone mentioned Angie Parrish says, I was looking to create a more natural front yard with less grass, more native plants. And Teresa was so skillful in helping me think through the design and what best fit was what I was seeking. I was delighted with the outcome, much more natural while still fitting within the general vibe of the landscaping in my community. She also designed a winding forest path for my wooded backyard and a plant plan for added texture and color and interest along the path. Teresa is very creative, easy to work with, and always with the client's goals in the forefront. And that's just one of many. Can I just read another one quick? Is that okay?
Sure.
This one, Mary, she says, Tree, which we call you Tree, has been a friend of hers for decades and hired you to transform her Boulder, Colorado front and backyard into something real interesting, beautiful, and natural. I always know I'm in good hands because she's such a unique designer in everything she does. She doesn't skimp and make choices that aren't in harmony with the land. I feel like all in all, she is kind and also pushed me to think to the next level and loves that about you. First of all, it was so fun. We worked together to make intelligent choices, working out perfectly with a timeline, budget, and land. And she says 15 years later, she has a really awesome mature space that has grown into itself and has become more interesting with time. So really grateful that she took your suggestion to put it in this larger architectural piece and really that didn't, give a lot of bang for the buck when they were planted. But now, there's amazing parts of that garden and there's so much more she says as well. But really, it's great to have these experiences. Thank you.
All right. Thanks.
Yay. All right. Well, what other aspects of this planning? And by the way, just curious, are you working mostly in the Asheville area or are you doing, plans for people across the US or worldwide?
Well, I lived in Boulder County, Colorado for a year while I was in massage school. And so that happened. But yes, I work Asheville all around it's North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia,
Mm-hmm.
Tennessee, nothing is too far really. But you know, I just like the different microenvironments, and I don't know. There's so many nice places. So yeah, I work everywhere. I spent 20 years in California. I'm glad to come back for a visit. I don't have to spend a lot of time on a site. I mean, I need time to soak it in, but nowadays with technology, you can get so much information. You don't have to be there for every single thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll,
Wow.
I'll design anywhere.
And I love looking at them, and
Love
I
to travel.
Uh-huh. Oh my gosh. I looked at the I love the path that there's this let me pull it back up. Hold on. It's a new contemporary home you did with a front patio for gathering, but you also this little like walkway. Yeah, beautiful. I love these walkways.
That's something that I have kind of, I don't know, maybe a trademark thing. A type of thing that I've started doing is so many of my clients are, many of them, not all of them, are kind of gearing towards retirement age, or they have retired. And generally they have a little bit of bigger property than like the really tight suburban stuff that we see. And those, everybody needs to keep moving. As we get older, we need to keep moving and walking. And I have some clients who are rolling now, so so what I'm doing is creating a path, a
Yeah.
lap, like a lap around their property, so that they can, if they're like me, I'll get on the phone, and I'd like to kind of pace when I'm talking on the phone. I love talking on the phone, right? I've lived in different places. I want to keep in touch with friends. So get on the phone and kind of go for a walk, and they can do this in the comfort and safety of their own property, and it gets them outside rather than sitting.
Mm-hmm.
It keeps them off the street. Not that, I mean, generally these locations are safe enough, but it's just neat to have a path winding through your property. It's surprising how long it can be. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun to get people out and moving more.
Yeah, for sure. And my question to you is because someone suggested putting a path in my yard. I could still do that later behind the little wall that was built for like the waterfall for my pool. And I have a gate behind it. And right now there's just grass, right? And don't laugh, but I'm a homeowner. I have a 7 and 9. Oh, he just turned 10. I'm a single mom and I take care of the property, right? So one of my biggest thing is I hate weeds. And weeds grow a lot. And why? And someone suggested putting a path back there. And I stopped and I said, wait, but then I'm going to get weeds in between the beautiful slate or the rocks. I'm like, how am I going to take care of the upkeep on the weeds? So that was again, as a woman who does it all, I'm like, maybe I need a full patio pathway. But I like the way it looks better when it's weedless to have it the way you're doing it.
Yeah. Well, different ways to achieve that. A lot of times, one of the,
Gravel.
yeah, gravel, but not just gravel. You got to have a sub base under there. You've got to have compacted crusher run, or it has different name, road base. There's different names for it, but you've got to have something underneath it, and it's got to be compacted. And
Yes.
people think that you can just put some flagstones down and have a flagstone patio, and then they end up with this wonky thing. And it's that's part of why landscape installations are expensive, is because it's remodeling your outside, and it's not just a matter of like frisbee tossing a flagstone and it lands. It requires a foundation, just like anything else that you're building.
Amazing. Wow. Because yeah, I'm just still on your website and I'm perusing as I'm speaking to you in the corner here and looking at some of these amazing projects. And that Christmas card that someone sent you with the front of their house with what you
Yeah.
did. Was that
Oh,
this year or it's beautiful.
that is
Azaleas.
that's this year. That was design. I designed that for Todd in 2021. And that got planted in the summer of 2021. And that is on St. Simon's Island in Georgia. And he did a great job of taking his old brick ranch home and spicing it up. And he just did a great job. Beautiful home. And so we brought in a whole bunch of Encore azaleas, white. And he's got these towering live oaks that are gorgeous and protected on the island. You can't just cut those down. I mean, you can barely cut them at all. They
Wow.
love their live oaks, and for good reason. They're huge. And so we put a bunch, like a sea of these white encore azaleas underneath. And he said that there's only a few weeks of the year they're not blooming. And I'm just like, wow. And I think that's because they have the shade of the oaks with the warmth and the, humidity keeping them going. It's just fascinating.
Wow. And let me also add, you're not just doing landscape design. They're doing, I read the custom fire pits, the shed,
Oh
the
yeah.
pool houses, the bocce ball courts. I mean, there's so much to what you're doing here.
Well, I call that landscape design too.
Oh, okay, okay. I'm sorry. For me, in layman's term, as a regular person not in your field, I think of, the trees. I think about the patio. I think about the front yard, the back yard, the grounds. I didn't realize that all encompasses it. But with all you're doing, I guess it's everywhere on the property, right? Even the hardscaping too. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the Venn diagram of like architecture and landscape architecture, they cross over big time. But
Hmm. And why, would someone come to you? What would you say sets you apart and makes you unique? No, we don't like talking about ourselves, but I think you should because you got some great reviews and you do amazing work, obviously. And you've been doing this
well,
for what, since was it 99, 98?
99.
I read, uh-huh. Okay.
Well, I mean, I like talking about myself enough. It's because I know what I have to offer, and it's definitely very much custom.
Yeah.
Um, and I want you to be happy. It's not like, hey, here's my design. I hope you like it. Bye. It's no, it's like, what are your,
Yeah.
and it gets woo-woo here. It's like, what are your hopes and dreams here? Like, how do you want to live your life? A lot of your life is indoors, a lot of your life is outdoors, or it could be much more so outdoors. And so just really looking at what is going to make people's lives better. Like when you're coming down the road to your house every day from work, the way your property looks when you enter it is huge.
Uh,
That and how it kind of envelops you and makes it feel like home. Just coming home to something that you like to see and that you feel good in
mm-hmm.
just increases your happiness. So I would say that what I offer is extreme listening
Yeah.
and super custom design with trying to maintain a budget and just to get you a plan that you can chip off small pieces as you go or do the whole shebang.
Got a whole shebang. I love it. All right. Well, we still have just 4 minutes left in your show. I want to make sure we're covering everything that's important to you today. Again, being that it is our first show together. And I know we're going to have some more, which is great because we're going to be talking about so many different things. Like you have some topics here, right? You were mentioning about rain gardens, storm water, lawn lane. What's that? I'm sorry. I need a teaser. Lawn lane. So much more is possible, you say. Yes. Just those green lawns. Kind of boring, right?
Mhm. Yeah, just we'll talk about why people like lawns, and so much of it is just kind of because, well, that's what's been done before, and people just kind of see it
Used to.
as that's what's acceptable or that's what people do. It's like, well, there's so much more to talk about with
Do you
that.
also work with like, do you like the turf, the fake lawn in a sense in certain areas on a property? Could that be beneficial?
I think it's beneficial in a place where a dog, like in a dog run where a dog's peeing all the time.
Okay.
Um, or places that have zero shade or light, 100% shade,
Mm-hmm.
where you just would rather not have bare dirt or whatever. But typically I stay away from that because it's just kind of off gases. It's not, it's not my style. I'd rather see things growing. I'd rather see, just nature filling in the voids rather than kind of paving. To me, it's essentially like paving,
Got it. And do you have your own like signature style or do you a lot of times clients come to you wanting that or that freedom, that flexibility to do what you like, or do they come to you with specific, things maybe you're not comfortable with or you're not a fan of, but that's what they want. So you'll open up obviously plans to do what they want you to do. How does that part work?
Yeah, I mean it's a dance and it's kind of like people come with their ideas and then I come with my
Mm-hmm.
ideas. We kind of um remarkably successfully I wouldn't say I've really had an experience yet where someone's like, oh yeah, she just no. It's always worked, and that's just wild. It's so cool. But yeah, sometimes people come to me with things that they want and they're kind of stuck on it. But as we
Mm-hmm.
talk, what they realize is like, oh, I
Mm-hmm.
was people are hiring me not because they know exactly what they want. If they're hiring me, then there's some little voice in them that's like, well, maybe there's another way, or she can help
Mm-hmm.
massage out some of my rigid thinking or whatever it is. So, but it's definitely a dance, and I make compromises, and so do my clients.
Beautiful. Well, let's remind everyone how we can reach out to you, darling. Would you mind sharing the website, phone number, or any social media pages before we go?
Yeah, sure. My projects are most like are best displayed on the Houzz website,
Okay.
Houzz. Um, and you can search me Ecology by Design there, and the actual website for that is houzz.com/pro/tree. And then
Beautiful.
but my website, which is also hosted through them, is ecobydesign.net.
Awesome. Well, looking forward to speaking with you again. Pleasure getting to know you today, Tree, and I'm hoping it warms up where you are as well. We're in a bit of a chill here in New York as well. And
Yeah.
again, Happy New Year, all to new beginnings, to the vision of the spring ahead, and to being in that space that makes you feel so good. COVID, I
Awesome.
think, really helped me appreciate nature and things around me. And got me looking at my property saying, I want this, I want to do that. We're outdoors more. Hey, let's do an outdoors. It's just, you put everything
Awesome.
into perspective and you want to feel good. And now's the time to get started. So please reach out to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Jill. It was a pleasure.
Same here. Have a fantastic day. Bye bye.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.